Here's your recap on the defense's opening statements in the Lindsay Clancy trial if you just don't have time. I'm going to give you the key points. So, Kevin Reddington is her attorney, and he starts with saying, normally we thank the jurors for taking the time serving on the jury, but in this case, God bless you people. He then says, you guys are about to hear and see some of the most horrific things. The government is claiming that this case is not about having babies, not about postpartum depression or psychosis, but he says it absolutely is. Then he dramatically points to the DA who is in the front row, and he says, they brought this charge. The DA calls him by name, brought this charge. Then he says he knew the facts of this case, and he knew that it would kill the soul of this young woman. She knows that she harmed and killed these children. The issue is, he says, what was going on in this woman's mind. She was a parent pleaser, he says. She was a person who had a lot of friends and still had friends even from the 6th grade nursing school. She was a high achiever, and you'll hear after 4 or 5 days that she had her 3rd child, that she ran a 5K. She was very fit. She watched what she ate and watched what she did as far as like physical activities, and was one heck of a mother. And he said, what the state said about her kids, she knows 1,000 times more. He said she would decorate their kids' rooms. Patrick and her had a wonderful life. She was a nurse. They met in Boston when they first started dating, and that you'll have to look at photos, videos, audio, visit the scene where someone else lives that doesn't look at all like their home. He said in their home there were letters, numbers, toys. They didn't have a dining room, but in place they had a little station where their baby could hang out. And he stresses that these children were loved. He claims she didn't want to get rid of them. She loved them up until their time of death. The state has to put on a massive production. This is not about that, but just about a family. He says Patrick worked from home because of what Lindsay was going through at the time. He said when they had their 2nd child, Lindsay suffered from postpartum depression, and that was evidence that can lead to bipolar. What you don't do is put someone like that on an SSRI. Lindsay went to the doctors in September of 2022, and then September is when things started to go sideways. He said the state's going to claim that she faked a suicide, that she hired a lawyer immediately after the incident. But what actually happened, instead of these surface cuts that they claimed, was that she went into the master bedroom, looked in the mirror, and slit her throat in front of the mirror. This was no fake suicide. Then he shows pictures of Lindsay in the hospital. And just how graphic in nature they are, I'm not going to show a lot of the photos, but you can easily find them online. He then proceeds to say that she had great medical staff in the aftermath and that they saved her life, even though she did not want them to save her life. He did show this photo above of the knife that she used, and ironically, it is next to a mug that says, because kids. He points out that this right here is a case with sleep aids, and then that spray up there is also a sleep spray, and that she did not sleep hardly at all. She did not sleep for months. He then goes to say that the state is going to try to tell you that Lindsay hung from the window and then somehow crawled down like Spider-Man, and the evidence is actually going to show that she flung and threw herself out of the window, striking her head on the ground, causing a fracture of her neck that shattered her spine, broke every rib, and that she is now living in her own personal hell. And he reiterates, she knows what happened to those kids. The state will say that the voices conveniently stopped once the kids were not alive, but you're going to learn that a psychologist was brought into the hospital room who said that she was still hearing voices. Even then, she wasn't allowed visitors, even her family, for an entire week. And he says that that room was, quote, an armed camp. The first thing that she did when she got out of the coma was asked where her family was and if her kids were okay. He then dives into the doctors and the medication that she was on. He said that she started on Zoloft but didn't take it for a couple of weeks because she was still breastfeeding, and once she started on the medications, it went downhill from there. You'll see in her Google searches that she tried Googling a variety of things like how to help postpartum, what do I do with lack of sleep, how to stop thoughts of self-harm. She was a nurse, and Cora was actually named after the first baby that Lindsay ever delivered. He says, "Please help me," is what this case is about. He then goes through the list of meds that she was prescribed, as well as how many times she tried to get help. And then apparently her parents came up around November to take care of the kids because she was, quote, like a zombie. She rocked back and forth on the sofa crying, banging her head into the pillow of the sofa. December 4th, 2022, she calls the suicide hotline. Her doctor, that was later helping her, retires and she has to get a new doctor within a 5-day span. She told her husband in front of her mom that she was having thoughts of hurting the children. And then he closes it out by saying, "This is a woman who didn't get the help that she so deserved." He says, "To this day, she wants to die. You'll hear testimony and it's going to be emotional. Thank you for your service." And then he sat down. Stay tuned because Patrick Clancy, her husband, or I guess ex-husband now, is on the stand. I have lots of thoughts about what has been happening so far, so stay tuned and I will give a recap on his testimony.